For those who perhaps didn't see this news, and I'll link to this article down below on the Gran Turismo website, it would appear that even if we do hold out a little bit of hope, and I do still have just the slightest bit of hope for this month, it seems more likely, certainly at the moment, that this will be another month like January where we're not necessarily going to get any cars or circuits in Gran Turismo 7. Now that's not something I'm going to try and put a positive spin on, because I don't think there is a positive spin to give. Now, I guess you could say, well, we are getting VR, which of course is a primary update for this month. We were already aware of this, I covered it a few weeks ago, and it seems, at least from that article, that that is at the very least the focus of this month, if not all we're getting. The reason why I think it would be very difficult to put a positive spin on this is because regardless of Kaz's intentions in terms of making this the most immersive, the most fun gameplay experience, which on the surface is a noble and fun goal that we can all get behind, the reality of the situation isn't that cut and dried. Because the reality is, anyone in life has a certain amount of time, effort and resources to place into certain endeavours. And by definition, whatever you put those time, resources and efforts into shows the level of priority which that thing has for you. So by definition, if this is all we get this month, in addition to January being as dry as the Mojave, then that will indicate where the priorities are. And unfortunately, the priorities are not with the 99% of us in the community who either don't have the interest in VR to play it, or, let's be honest, in the vast majority of cases, don't have the funds to play it. There are plenty of younger people on the PS4, for example, or even on a PS5 who might have had the console purchased for them as a Christmas gift, birthday present, just a gift in general from their parents who cannot afford this additional £500+ piece of hardware to just experience the game that they already have in a new way. And that really is what this boils down to. So, as optimistic as I would always like to be, you also have to be realistic. Now, being Kaz, he does like to release, the silhouettes, the teasers, and they tend to fall outside of the typical news cycle. They're just on Twitter, on a weekend, he randomly drops them, and then we get, a trailer to confirm them. And we have a lot of fun each month guessing what they are, seeing which ones are right and wrong, etc. So it is still entirely possible that this weekend, for example, which will be the last weekend before it actually drops in update form next week, he could well do that. So that possibility is still there, and of course I'm hoping that that does happen, because as the data mining list shows, we are not even close to being done with Gran Turismo 7. If that list continues to be as accurate, at least, as it already has been, and we have no reason to believe it won't be. Now, there was some chatter recently about Gran Turismo 8 already being in development, and I'm not going to dive into that too much because that's not particularly revolutionary news. And the only people who would think that's revolutionary is if they apparently didn't cover or feature or listen to any kind of development in the past of the franchise. Gran Turismo's always carried over things to the next game, even sometimes on a new console, as we saw from Gran Turismo 4 assets being reused. This, again, the precedent is already there. GT Sports stuff was even carried over to GT7, and this is not a surprise at all. It's perhaps a surprise that it's happening so quickly, if it is the case, but again, still not that surprising. It's just more surprising that we've heard about it this early, not necessarily surprising that they're developing it this early. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because the problem that they've got now is because of certain very bad decisions that were made regarding GT7 very early on, such as microtransactions, how the Haggerty collection works and forces you into grinding the game more than you'd like to, with a very limited career mode, etc., etc., etc. It would be beneficial from a financial perspective to distance yourself from that and just get the new game out. They get a whole wave of new income, and they can correct those things while simultaneously getting money for it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but, it kind of makes sense from a business perspective, as long as it isn't rushed, because otherwise you're learning nothing then, and it will just be another badly reviewed game. So ultimately, I'm not touching on that as much. The main crux of this video is more so about this month. I am holding out that little bit of hope, but ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if VR is all we get this month. Here's hoping that perhaps next month, when Kaz's little baby that he's playing with currently, which is VR, much like how he said, and I've covered it twice recently about Tourist Trophy 2, the only reason why we're not getting it is because he's not personally satisfied with the quality of a motorcycle-esque rig to be able to play it on. Well, it's, again, all well and good having these sky-high goals, but if they mean that something never happens or only happen for 1% of the community and leave the rest behind, the rest who made Gran Turismo what it is, quite literally from a sales perspective, well, then that throws up some red flags, to say the least, about priorities. Ultimately, though, that's it for my thoughts. Give me your thoughts down below, and of course, you can bet your backside that if new news or silhouettes or anything like that drops, of course, as always, I will be featuring it on the channel. But aside from that, I'll see you next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.